Welcome to Art Share, the podcast for artists by artists, with your hosts, Brigid Ashwood, Ash Evans, and Mary Layton.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Art Share Podcast, and happy May the 4th. Today is May the 4th, a sacred holiday among Star Wars fans and Jedi alike. So a happy one to you. Today we're going to be talking about artists, myths, and misconceptions. Things like, what are some kind of sayings and like cliches that you've heard about artists?
Oh, the starving artist is a good one.
The starving artist, right? Mm-hmm. Sorry, Mary, go ahead.
Oh, it's okay. One of the ones that I get a lot of times is to do with the fact that art isn't really a proper career, proper job. I've had people ask me, what do you do? And when I say I'm an artist, they'll go, no, I mean, where do you work? So, yeah, I kind of hate that one when people just assume that it's a hobby. And then if you tell them that no, you really are, and you work from home and you do art all day, oh, you must have all sorts of free time, you know. There are a lot of them.
Yeah, people in front of the TV and like just sit around all day. And
yeah.
And the art school isn't a real college. I got that a lot when I was going to MICA, which is like one of the top 3 art schools in the world at the time. I think they were ranked number 3. Wow. Oh, you don't go to real college. When are you going to go to real college?
My bank account thinks it's real.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like way more expensive. And, you know, you couldn't really just brag to your friends about going to art school because that wasn't a real school.
Mm-mm.
So.
By the way, Mary, I love your cinnamon bun hair in honor of May the 4th. It's like super.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yes. Mini buns. I couldn't get too much fluffiness. I've got a lot of hair. It's really long, but it's very fine, so there's no fluff. So mini buns.
They're so cute. They're so cute. And I have to acknowledge that if we all seem a little low-key today, it's because we're really tired. All of us had, I think, late nights last night and working hard. So.
In honor of May the 4th, I have switched the swear duck to the swear Ewok.
Yay!
Hooray!
If I'm angry, Wicket will make a cameo, so that's
awesome. I love his teeth. Yeah, the whole starving artist thing. I think that the tragedy of that is it's kind of hits you from a couple different directions. I think that it's kind of assumed. I mean, you know, that to be. I think it ties into this larger idea of the artist as sort of like this tortured soul. Okay, that you know that you have to be. Kind of depressed and maybe struggling with anxiety and a couple of different issues, that's just, you know, quote, normal and par for the course as an artist. And it's not necessarily true. And I think that, you know, I've had some people in my life who definitely maybe didn't look for the help that they needed because they sort of bought into this weirdly romanticized idea that to be an artist, especially a genius or a good one, was to be a mess. And having experienced that myself, I mean, that's just not true. Like you'll still be a good artist if you sleep well and if you need medication, if you get the medication you need. I mean, the brain is an organ like any other. And I know there's a lot of stigma attached to that sort of thing, and there shouldn't be, because you know what, if you had diabetes, you're going to take, you know, medicine for diabetes. If you've got whatever, insert here, like I said, we're tired, sorry. My words, but I just don't think that's the case at all. And in fact, if you want to make a career out of art, the more
like functional.
The more functional, the healthier that you can make your life, you know, physically, mentally, emotionally, the better you're going to do, and your talent will still be there. I really don't like this idea that your ability comes from distress.
Right. You have to suffer. You have to suffer for your craft.
Right.
Yeah.
You have to suffer for your art.
Charles Schultz refused to medicate himself because he thought that the peanuts would suffer if he did. And he was one of those people that like struggled with mental illness for his entire life. And
I mean, that's his choice, but I think that's a bummer, you know.
I thought I had read an article saying that he chose not to, just because they would not be as funny or not do something. I don't know. And if you keep saying that things are, you know, you're a struggling artist, you're feeding into the stigma that you don't need to be paid. Artists are used to starving.
Right.
So you have to pay them. So you're also undervaluing yourself and the entire industry when you refer to yourself.
Right. That we do it for that artists create for the accolades and the glory and the the recognition, or just the sheer pure love of it because it's somehow, you know, related to charitable works or something. Like I create art so that, you know, I gotta be honest with you. I don't create art so that other people can enjoy it. Like I don't, if you enjoy it, great. But
It's a good side effect. Most people create art because they have a compulsion to create art. And I always tell artists or aspiring artists that come up to me in my booth, you know, it shows, oh my gosh, I'm an aspiring artist. What can I do? And I'm like, if you aren't compelled to do this every single day, do something else. Don't make it your career. You can make it a hobby. That's fine. If you love art, that's great. It can be a hobby. But if you want it to be a career, it's really more of a reflex or a compulsion or an impulse.
That's the same thing that writers say to aspiring writers. They say, like, if, you know, first of all, unless you can't live without doing this, just try to find something else to do. Right.
It's a lot easier, you know. But like I said, it's the myth that we have to suffer and that we don't get paid, and we do it for the good of mankind. And while I am flattered and thrilled that people are happy with my work, I can't live inside the good of mankind, and I really can't eat like world peace. So I need some money also.
Right. And that brings me to where I'm going to contradict myself, which is that, you know, when I just said that I don't create for other people to enjoy it, except that I do, because art is also a business. And so, yes, you know, there's the art you create because you're compelled to, the work of, you know, your heart work, the work you want to do that really has significance and meaning to you. And then there's the work that you do because you know it'll be marketable and it'll pay the bills. And I always say the sweet spot is when they overlap.
Yeah, it's muse and money. It's muse and money, and sometimes they come together, and sometimes they don't. So
muse and money.
You're doing it for someone else, but you're getting paid at least. And there's compensation for it. But yeah, that's just, I always feel bad. They're like, oh, well, I'm a starving artist. I see it at conventions all the time, and like you say, oh, your work's really great, and then they get all embarrassed, and they're like, oh, well, I'm a starving artist. It's really great. And you know, another one that gets me is the self-taught people. Like, oh, I'm just self-taught. Like going to school was a bad thing. And like, there's this myth around being a self-taught artist and how that's more credible or like should be more celebrated. Has anyone else experienced that? Because
yes, the whole self-taught. Well, the thing is, I have to be careful because a lot of our dear friends like to say self-taught, and I get it. I get where they're coming from. I actually think that it comes from two different places. Like sometimes it comes from this place of like pride. Oh, and I'm self-taught. I taught all this myself. Taught this to myself. I learned on my own. Okay. I think other times it's used sort of in a self-deprecating way. Like if you see any flaws in my work, well, I was self-taught, so please forgive. And I'm not sure that I get why it's being used, and maybe one of our friends can explain it to us or something, because I think it's kind of wrongheaded in both regards, because I think this I've never met anybody who was entirely self-taught at anything. Sorry, Mary.
Yeah, I've stopped saying that I'm self-taught. I don't think I've post that anywhere anymore. When I first started, I did because I thought, oh, I'm self-taught because I didn't go to college, so I'm just self-taught. But I've stopped using it because, in a way, I'm not, though, because I got my information from lots of great books, good examples and tutorials by artists that I admire. So it's not so much that I'm self-taught as I self-studied, maybe.
Self-directed learning. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So I've even stopped using self-taught because it's kind of, I don't know. I don't think there's really any such thing as self-taught, because that implies that you're gaining knowledge that you already knew, kind of thing. Yeah, it sounds kind of weird to me, in a way.
Incarnated and blind. There's just kind of no way.
Well, I think. Go ahead.
Oh, reference also. Oh, I drew this from memory. Like, that's another big, like, weird artist myth, and how they kind of like poo-poo on reference. And it's just like, are you kidding me? In the internet age where you can Google what anything looks like instead of going to the library, it's such a freaking gift. Why is having reference this weird stigma thing too? Because that drives me nuts.
Oh yeah, me too. I hate
their
that.
anatomy's bad. It's like, well, maybe you should have used some.
Right. Right. I think that that answer is frequently given out of like a little bit of fear, because the internet sure led to a lot of really weird misconceptions about art, and reference was one of them. I mean, you went to art school and you were taught to use reference, and you were taught to how to use it appropriately and how to give credit if needed, and get, licensing rights if needed, and all of that stuff. Okay. And that's a big part of art school is reference. And then the internet happened, and all these different websites where you could just sort of share your art, and where everybody was just kind of coming together as a young group and learning from each other. And sort of this culture grew up out of themselves that had no understanding of the tradition of traditional art school, which is flawed in its own right. That's a whole nother Oprah. So I'm not necessarily lauding like traditional art school at all. But there was definitely this really weird idea of that you were less of an artist if you used reference, which I found really surprising. Because first of all, if you have your vision, you use reference. Sorry.
Da Vinci used models. Everybody used models. That's reference.
Even if you drew from, quote, memory, you were remembering something you saw, whether it was, something live, an object, or whether it was a photograph. You're using recall, and you're referencing your recall that originated with something. So relax. Yeah. But back to what we were talking about a second ago, though, the self-taught thing. I think that, I'm not trying to criticize anybody who uses that word, but I think it's just a little meaningless at this point, and we don't know how it's meant, and it's kind of weird, and so I would encourage anybody using self-taught, if you're using it in the self-deprecating way, because you feel a little bit insecure, you feel like it's some sort of like acknowledgement or even an apology or an excuse because you perhaps think that your work isn't up to par, please stop using it that way.
Yeah, that's what I was
definitely.
Mostly. It's people like to label things.
Give yourself more credit than that,
Exactly. You don't necessarily have to do that. You shouldn't be apologizing for your work before anyone even sees it.
Right. Don't use self-taught in that regard.
Exactly. Right. Like I said, I'm not trying to be a jerk and criticize anybody either, but it's a weird word that floats around our sphere, and I just see it in different incarnations. So I thought that in itself is this myth of what is it actually and what are they meaning?
Right. You are good enough. We're telling you right now, you're good enough. You don't have to use that as like some sort of weird caveat or excuse.
It's bizarre.
Right. On the other hand, if you're using self-taught as sort of like a badge, I don't know. I would challenge you to perhaps think about, are you really self-taught? Did no one ever direct you to a book or a video or anything like that? I mean, then you watched it and you learned from it, but then that person, whoever created that book or tutorial or video, is one of your teachers. So
exactly.
So I like the idea. I would prefer self-directed learning or something like that. But then I guess, then it's semantics and we're nitpicking, and I can see that. So maybe we just need to start replacing in our heads the word self-taught, give it a new meaning, self-directed learning.
Yeah.
Created my own art school. We need to find that link. I think I've mentioned it before, of those this group of artists who said, like, instead of spending $100,000 on art school, do this instead. It's out there. So, do you guys know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. I think I can't remember what the. We'll Google that and then put it on.
Google that and then try to put it
on the page
or something. Because there's like it was like self-directed art school, like get these DVDs, buy these books, go watch these YouTube videos, and the total was like only a couple $1,000 versus $150,000 for art school or whatever. So oh my gosh.
A lot of online courses. If I was graduating out, I would have never gone to art school. I didn't even finish art school. I was there during the abstraction period, where they were like painting eyeballs on rocks and calling it God and all this other BS. And I wasted like a semester's worth of tuition before I was like, screw this. This is insane. I actually got a better education at a community college art class. Like, I had a really fantastic teacher. So it's not about the money and where you go. And usually when they go to hire you, they're not like, let's see your diploma. It's your portfolio, and it's developing that also.
I know. My daughter's 15 and thinking about, what she wants to do and if she's going to go to college and which and for what and all of those things. And she's definitely interested in art, and she has natural ability. But I said, look, you're not going to art school. I also went and then just dropped out because I was like, this is bullshit, man. So
business school, if you want to be an artist. Honestly,
that's what I told her. I said, go and get a 2-year business degree, and then and just work on your art in your own time, and we'll find you the classes you need to take and stuff to grow as an artist. We'll do that differently, but we're not going to pay like
the core classes and all that garbage.
Right. And business school is so much better of an idea, like a 2-year business degree, and then start your own business, and you'll have a better head for this, and you'll know what to do. Which brings us to another artist myth that artists are bad at business.
Not true.
Doesn't need to.
We have to be good at it because it's only us doing it. So we have to learn how to run the business. And before I ever put up a website, I took a course at a local college on starting your own business and what you need to know, what you need to do. So as you say, business courses are more important for an artist, especially if you're going to do the self-representing thing. Because you're your boss, you're the employee, you're the treasurer. I mean, you're doing everything. You have to know how to run a business to be an artist. It's just, they go hand in hand.
And you're the salesperson. And I think that's the hardest at being a self-representing artist, is being your own salesperson. It's incredibly awkward.
Oh, yeah.
I often wish I had taken like a sales course or something that would help that, help with how to sell when what you're selling is yourself. It's really challenging.
Brand development is the new, you're a brand now. It's not even you're an artist. You're this brand, and you have to know how to package and market and do all this stuff. It's interesting, and the psychology in it's really interesting. I've taken several psychology courses. So there was one, it was like the psychology of salesmanship. It's fantastic. And it's just really funny things that you can say to turn things into conversions. And the myth that we're just not good business people is funny, because if we weren't, we'd kind of be in a cardboard box. You know, I mean, like, bills still need to be paid. The government's going to be like, oh, you're an artist. You don't have to file your taxes. You're bad at business. Yeah, that doesn't work.
Right. Yeah, the IRS doesn't care if you're, quote, you know, you're an artist and it's so adorable, but you just don't have a head for this. It's so challenging.
Right? Oh, you're not good at accounting. That's okay.
Get in the cage, right? But that said, again, I want to say we're not saying that if you are somebody who genuinely does not have a head for business, we're not saying this again to disparage you. We're saying it to the people who might be buying into this idea and thinking, oh, well, there's no point in even taking that business class or trying to learn because I'm an artist and I'm just not good at business. And it might sound silly that I'm saying that, but yes, it is a constant refrain that actually does challenge people, and it is super, super difficult. And I got to tell you, I had an incredibly supportive family. I was very lucky that they nurtured what talent I had and helped me grow and got me, you know, teachers and everything. That said, I was also very bad at math. And it was assumed that this was because I'm an artist. And I never got like tutoring. I never got any special help. They just let me barely pass math through my entire grade school and high school and everything. And then as an adult, I found out that I have a learning disorder, that I have dyscalculia, which is basically dyslexia with numbers. Okay. So I found that out as an adult because just no one took it seriously. No one said, actually, Leonardo da Vinci was an artist who was good at math and an engineer. As a matter of fact, these things can go hand in hand. And, you know, we shouldn't dismiss, that she's poor at math just because she's an artist.
It's very true.
That's why these myths are harmful, you know?
There are several authors that are dyslexic and didn't know until, there's Laurel K. Hamilton, didn't know she was dyslexic until her daughter was diagnosed with dyslexia. And they just kind of had dismissed it all this time. And it's, you know, I guess it's all about labels and pigeonholing and making these assumptions. I go to a lot of shows and they always assume they see that I paint really cute things, and I've either got to be an idiot or I'm a pushover, or, you know, I'm really bad at business. They're like, oh, you set that up all by yourself, huh? It's like, yeah, tie my shoes too. You know?
I'm a big kid now.
That's why we drink. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm going to send you a crate of pull-ups. Love you.
You should never assume anything about anyone. That's basically the entire theme, because you don't know what their situation is. But don't use these as crutches to mire yourself. I see a lot of people hobbling their careers by buying into these things. And I think that was the whole point of this episode, is don't hobble yourself going, oh, well, I can't do that. Never say I can't do whatever unless it's breathe underwater, unless you have some kind of apparatus. And that's fine. But I mean, honestly, I can't is the biggest thing I hear from artists. And it's just like, don't self-limit. Because you feel that, you know, other people's expectations have been projected onto you, like these myths.
Right.
Drink that Kool-Aid. That's a bunch of garbage.
Right.
So if you're watching this, listen to what we're saying. That's important.
It's funny. There's the bad at business. Then there's like a flip side of that. Okay. Which there's a new myth. It's kind of younger because it came up around the same time that the internet first started becoming a thing. And we're all old enough to remember before the internet. Sorry, guys. You are barely, Ash. Right.
I had the internet in high school.
Yeah. But still, there when you were little, right?
Yeah.
Right. You didn't have that. Right? So that's what I said, barely. You can barely remember. Not like my daughter, who was like, 2 years old, playing Dora the Explorer on the computer. Click, 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 click. I'm like, holy crap, that's making a lot of pathways, isn't it? Anywho, so the flip side of that, this newish myth is that actually now, to be a self-representing independent artist, you need to be able to do it all, that you have to and should be an expert at marketing and sales and do your own website and be able to like splice together your promo videos and do, you know, all your own computer work, laying out, you know, whatever t-shirt or coffee mug designs you're going to do from this artwork so that you can upload it to Redbubble, and that you need to be able to do absolutely every last bit of it, create your own logo. And that's not true.
On social networking, it is a bunch of crap. You don't go to, I mean, there isn't a doctor for everything, right? You know, if you need your teeth fixed, you go to the dentist. If you have problems with your eyes, you go to the ophthalmologist. There are reasons, there are specialties in the industry. I don't do my own logos. I pay a logo company because I am not a logo artist. That is not my thing. And even if you want to attempt it, like, I would waste more time trying to do it than it would be to just pay someone, and it's going to look way better, and it's available in all the different, you know, files that you need. I mean,
right.
Yeah. Hire help. That's kind of the point of all these other people having these jobs that aren't the job you're doing.
Right.
You know?
Right. Exactly. Sorry, Mary,
Oh, I was just agreeing. Hire these people. There are different types of artists who do different types of things like logos, and artists who create videos and that. And by all means, hire them. Throw some work their way.
Right. Because it's a little disrespectful, I guess is the word. I mean, we don't mean it disrespectfully, but to think that you should be able to do it all. I mean, you know, if that graphic designer, you know, went to school for that, spent, you know, time and a great deal of effort, has like a whole bank, a hard drive of resources that they've spent years building up, fonts and pretty little graphics and stuff to put everything together. And you just want to, you're going to spend more time and money and frustration trying to recreate that product, that end product, and that's their expertise. I agree with you. I think that there are a lot more independent and self-representing artists that are good at, you know, more than one of those things. Okay. But, and I'm seeing a lot more of that. And I think that that's definitely true of the people that were growing up with the internet and were having access to more things. You know, they have GIMP, and they have iMovie, and they had a Mac. And so they have more experience with like a broader range of all these things, a different skill set. I see my daughter as one of them because she knows how to use iMovie and GarageBand, and she's got the social networking thing totally down. It's just, she doesn't even have to think about it. It's just part of exactly who she is as a person because she was raised with it. But if you don't, I mean, I think I'm actually relatively accomplished at social media, but I hired a social media marketer for myself just because I can't keep up with it anymore. I just don't have the time. And so if I want quality stuff being shared, I need help. And that's it. Like, I know, I digress, but I know for myself, I was talking about this recently with a friend, and who had for a long time been feeling like, you know, she should be able to do all of these different little things. And I felt really bad because she pointed to me as an example. She's like, well, you can do all this stuff, right? And I was like, okay, hold up. Yeah, yes, I can. But I'm really, really grateful for that because I save a lot of money. But I spent 20 years in a completely different field. Well, completely different. It's not. It's parallel. It's graphic design. But I did graphic design. Then I did websites. I did graphic design for the internet and for print. I did, you know, book layout, magazine layout, logo design. I did all of this stuff that I'm really grateful for because now I can do it for myself, for my art business. But I still spent 20 years in that field learning all of that. So I'm fortunate, but let's not forget that, you know, there's a reason for that. So to think that you should just be able to dive in and be able to do all that stuff is a little silly.
And sometimes it's not the best thing to do. I know a lot of people who write and they thought that they could self-edit. They're like, oh, I'm an English major. It's fine. I'll be able to edit this. And then there was a mess. And it's because sometimes you're just too close to whatever it is too. And there's just no harm in having an outsider whose profession it is to do these things. And I don't know why people are ashamed of that. Like I said, the jobs exist for a reason. Obviously there's a need. You're not coming up with a new thing that no one's ever needed before.
Right.
And I just really don't understand that. If you have the ability to, hire someone, do it. I got to a point with my business where my fulfillment was getting to be too much. Luckily, my mom retired like that year. It came in, like I struggled for about 8 months. And then I was like, you know what? I'm just going to have somebody else come in and do this for me, because there comes a point, especially if you expand your business, where you're going to have to delegate. Look at Fortune 500 companies. They don't have one employee.
Right.
And
you have to also, because even if you can, and this is the problem that I've run into, I can do all these things for myself, and I'm a bit of a control freak about it because I can do all these things for myself, right? It's hard for me to relinquish that up to somebody else. And guess what? I have way less time for, creating new art, which is the whole reason for the business. And so that's what I'm having to find, is that I've got to delegate this stuff out to somebody else.
Yeah, there's a balance between can and should.
Right.
Yes, you can, but should you? I mean, I probably could have designed a logo. It would have taken me 8 times as long as sending an email and giving someone money. It would have taken me weeks. I had it in 3 days. I mean, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
The only thing that you can't replace is time. So even if you can, it doesn't mean you should. You have to prioritize and, think about what's more important and what you can let go of and have somebody else do for you. Do you see Ichabod running around?
Well, we're at time for this episode, so we'll post this today, but I think I've still got a whole half our bullet points left, so I think we'll continue with the next episode for next week, same topic. So we'll see you next week.